this angle or the higher one, so I'm gonna wait. I kind of like it like this, but I wasn't expecting that because the lower angle was an accident for the last video. But I'm gonna talk about pretty privilege because I was watching it, like a conversation about it on the internet, so I'm gonna talk about it right now. Perfume, lip gloss. Okay, so what people were saying on the internet is like there's no downsides to pretty privilege, which is completely a valid perspective and true. Every perspective is true, technically, but I agree that there's no downsides to pretty privilege. But there are downsides to people finding you pretty, especially if you are a child. So that wouldn't be pretty privilege because it's bad. So that would be a downside to being pretty, being pretty to an adult when you're not. But it wouldn't be a downside to pretty privilege because that's not privilege. Children don't gain anything from being considered pretty to adults. So, and also, all privilege equals ignorance. So if you have any privilege, you're probably not even really aware of it. So you wouldn't even be able to say that there are downsides to pretty privilege if you actually had it. There are downsides to being pretty, but there aren't downsides to pretty privilege, because pretty privilege implies that there are no downsides. Privilege has to be bestowed upon you. Men bestow privilege upon other men. Men bestow privilege upon women. So, in order for you to even have pretty privilege, is if people with some sort of privilege find you pretty and bestow privilege upon you. So, pretty privilege just equals being pretty to people with another privilege and they bestow it upon you. So, this relates to me today because I'm starting to peep that I never gain anything from people being into me and talking to me. Literally, every time it happens, it only makes my life worse. And I feel like women that are obsessed with like being pretty, like not to themselves but to other people, is because they already have another privilege. So it's okay for them to sacrifice it and, be pretty to somebody. But with me, I only lose things from people being into me, like literally every time. Like nobody that has ever interrupted my life has treated me like I was an adult woman. No, nobody that has interrupted my life romantically has ever treated me like an adult, a woman, or a person. Either of these three things, like individually or all at once. Everybody that tries to interrupt my life treated it like they were doing me a fucking favor. Mind you, every way that I elevate myself in life has been because of me, like only my own actions. So I gain absolutely nothing from people finding me pretty. They find me pretty to bring down my life. And that's the same thing with other people that are in a lower caste system, in a lower caste in the system. So when people are attracted to a child, that child's life gets significantly worse because an adult is attracted to them. Or if you have special needs or something like that, just being in a lower caste system, people being into you, they don't bestow any privilege. They don't help my life, but they're making it out like they're doing me a favor, that they find me pretty, which I didn't ask for. What I'm trying to say is my quality of life has never been improved by somebody being into me and like actually like talking to me, like, because people are into everybody all the time, but they don't actually end up like interrupting my life. Anyways, where was I going with this? I think and social media has taught me a lot about what romance is, because that's what social media has been doing contemporarily, just teaching women how somebody can improve their quality of life because they are interested in them, because that's the exchange that would ideally occur. So I learned a lot about romance from social media, but I don't like using TikTok anymore, even though like sometimes I take really raw breaks from it. And also social media like thrives off of jealousy, so you're supposed to be like jealous of somebody's relationship and how much their partner is buying for them or whatever, or their dorm decor, this and that. So you're supposed to be jealous, and then you like the video to prove that you're not. But where's I going with this? So that's like what is hard for me, like letting go of social media, even though I am learning a lot from it. And yeah, because I would never really know much about romance if not for TikTok, because my mom definitely wasn't going to tell me, because my mom was acting so excited when I was like 17, and this like sex offender nigga was like gonna take me to a takeout place. Like, she was literally acting so excited over that, and it was like, that's not romantic. But it also wasn't romantic because I did not have romantic associations with him. But yeah, nothing about that was romantic, and my mom was acting like so fucking perverted. Acting like she was making her first impression on him, whatever. Boy, mom ass bitch. But so yeah, I don't gain anything from people being into me. Like, I really like, and so that's kind of what I was opening up to my psychiatrist about, that I already told you about in the last video. Big head ass bitch was like, oh, maybe you've been molested because you're complaining about people being into you. Like, no. No. I'm complaining about people being into me that I don't like, interrupting my life and not treating me like a adult or a woman or a person. None of these three things. And people that don't like me actually do treat me like a woman, an adult person. And sure, I've only been an adult for like, you know, I've only been 20 for 6 months, but yeah. And I suppose, like, when I was a child, I didn't really feel like I needed to be resistant to people that weren't treating me like a woman or a person that is their age or a person, because I felt like there's no way this nigga is about to like be like delusionally act like, you know, I don't have any of those things, or I'm not any of those things. Like, there's just no way. And especially like when you are a child, if you're a child girl, it's kind of okay when people treat you like in delusional ways, because you're a child. So you kind of like, child girls get by on the privilege of just being a youth and looking youthful. So, you know, I was just kind of getting by off of like looking youthful, being passing for a kid and stuff like that. Like, so I didn't really feel like I needed to speak up for that, because I just kind of felt like there's no way, but there is a way. But that hasn't even happened, like, ever since I've been, like, 19.5/20.5, which is right now. Nobody has interrupted my life to try to treat me like a non-woman, non-adult, not subhuman species, so that hasn't happened. So I was talking to my psychiatrist about the instances where it has, because I'm just like, why did that even happen? Like, I've never interrupted no nigga's life to pretend like they were XYZ, like, so yeah. And it also doesn't help that I was friends with these dwarf niggas my freshman year of college that were so confused and confusing and creepy and weird, and I befriended them right after those, like, all of those, like, disrespectful romantic instances. Like, so I was like, okay, let me be friends with this type of like confusing. So I was like, let me intentionally be friends with these type of weirdos. But they also did insult me, because I was like, okay, let me be friends with some people that aren't women, adults, or humans, just like weird niggas, so that I could have proof that I am those things if I can interact with people that aren't. But no. And their creep, lame asses, sex offender niggas try to make it out like the way that I talk about womanhood is incorrect, or like the way that you talk about your gender. No, nigga, no. How would you know? Like, it was insane. So anyways, so in order to avoid being romantically insulted, I became friends with some weird niggas, and I was platonically insulted. But yeah, so that's why I don't hang around with people, especially people that are dying to date people, because they're only dying to date people because they have something to risk. They're only dying to date people because they have something to lose or something to risk, and they have some type of privilege that they can sacrifice. I don't have any privileges to sacrifice to date somebody, or so that somebody can find me, like, pretty. Like, I don't need anybody to find me. I don't need anybody to find me pretty. It has never, like, increased my quality of life, and I don't have any characteristics of life I would want to sacrifice so that somebody can, or somebody to make room for somebody. So, right, so what I was trying to say is, so yeah, there are no downsides to pretty privilege. There's only downsides to the wrong people finding you pretty. and you not having any other privileges to sacrifice. Or I mean, yeah, like, I don't even know. This angle actually eats, like, I was looking at the clips, so I'm gonna stay with this, like, a low angle. Yeah, because imagine if we were up here, like, this is how everybody should see my face. But yeah, so I was explaining, okay, so goals of mine now are to show emotions, correct people that don't treat me like girl adult human. What else? Oh yeah, and also, if you notice that there is a downside to being pretty, no. If you feel like there are downsides to having pretty privilege, or being like, oh, these people don't like me because I'm pretty, what you have to peep is that if you notice that people that are lower than you, by lower than you, I mean not having pretty privilege, like, if you notice people lower than you not liking you, then you don't have pretty privilege. Because privilege is being not able to see anything. So if you actually had pretty privilege, you wouldn't even notice that people that are lower than you don't like you. You'd only notice people that are higher than you not liking you. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So, and another example would be noticing when white people or your boss or something has a problem with you, because you would lose your job if your boss had a problem with you, or lose your job. But you're not going to lose your job or your livelihood by somebody lower than you having a problem with you. So it is completely not pretty privilege if you are noticing that somebody lower than you doesn't like you. Because if somebody lower than you has a problem with you, they're not lower than you. Like, you wouldn't even notice, because you don't notice things that are lower than you, right? So you don't have pretty privilege if you're noticing, or like being like,